everyone, Kirk Klein here with Hallmark University. We're going to be reviewing Don Yakabuchi's Marketing Management, 5th edition, Chapter 15 for BUS5332 Marketing Management. And Chapter 15 is Marketing Research Tools. That is going to fall within our marketing framework under the 5 C's, specifically customer. Our managerial checklist will start with what kinds of marketing research do we need, cluster analysis for segmentation, perceptual mapping for positioning, focus groups for concept testing and new products or advertising, conjoint for testing, attributes, and pricing, new products or branding, and scanner data for pricing and coupon experimentation and brand switching, and wrapping up with surveys for assessing customer satisfaction. Questions number 1. How can you find the answers to the following questions? How will your target customer respond to a price of $7.99 up to $9.99? And should you add a new feature that costs $4? And which is a more effective slogan? We love to see you smile or have it your way. Let's look at that first one. From $7.99 to $9.99, it depends on the product in question, right? So if we start looking at that and we go, oh my gosh, we've doubled the number of features and the price only went up $2. A lot of customers are going to love your company because from a loyalty perspective, you didn't price gouge, right? And a lot of customers feel a personal tie to your company when your company jacks the price by $2. And we do the pricing analysis of $2. It was originally $8, it went up $2. It's a 125% increase, right, over the original price. Or actually, it's 25%, which represents 125%, right? So it's when something goes up by 25%, that's an exorbitant amount of money. Now, we're just talking $8 to $10. But at the end of the day, if you doubled all the features, all the benefits, for just $2, your customer who feels that very close kinship and relationship to you might feel that, gosh, you only went up 25%, you doubled everything. That's great. If it's just to make $2 more per unit, you're probably going to disenfranchise a lot of folks. So should you add a new feature that costs $4? The question is that $4 the unit price or the retail price? If it's just the unit price to manufacture it, okay, then we're looking at that $7.99 to $9.99 jump. Where's the price? Who's absorbing the price? That's the question. So you could add a new feature that costs $4 if you could charge an extra $20 for it. Right? All of a sudden we went from our standard speaker to a speaker that is Bluetooth capable across the board for $4. And it's weather resistant, it's shock resistant, it's launch it to the moon and it's fine resistant. Yeah, for $4, do it. Which is more effective slogan? We love to see you smile or have it your way. I've got to go with we love to see you smile because that says customer centric, we're all about you. And have it your way strikes me as fine, have it your way. So I'm going to go with the we love to see you smile. Moving right along, marketing research. Marketing research should be fact-based. There seems like there should be an interesting duh behind that. But you'd be shocked at the number of companies who don't necessarily do all the facts. They go with a gut feeling and jump out there and either it's right or it's not. Smart marketers are continually gathering market information. Marketers also conduct specific research products, right? Or projects. So marketing research techniques, STP, cluster analysis of segmentation, multidimensional scaling for perceptual mapping, targeting and positioning. The 4 Ps, conjoint for new products, scanner data for pricing, surveys to assess customer satisfaction with internet as a distribution option, experiments to verify ad testing, 5 Cs, secondary data to understand the context, observational data to check on competitors, networks to study collaborators, and interviews to study companies' employees, surveys for customer satisfaction. So those are all the different techniques. Marketing research process is you define your marketing and marketing research problem, kind of like your hypothesis. Then you design primary data collection, sample, ergo, random sample, stratified sample by segment. Technique is then qualitative interviews, focus groups, observations, ethnographies, quantitative surveys, experiments, scanner data analysis, instruments, questionnaire, focus group, moderator, etc. Mode of administration, web survey, mail, personal interview, data collection, data analysis, communicate the results, white paper, presentation, recommendations. It's It's really involved. It sounds oddly like the scientific process, which it mimics completely. So when you're thinking about writing a thesis paper of some sort, the exact same ideas and thought processes go in behind that. And it's to drive competent, truthful, factual data on the other side of the experiment, right? So the kinds of data. You've got secondary. It already exists. You're just data mining through it. Primary. You design it, collect it, and then you analyze it. And the kind of study, what's it used for, and the example. So your exploratory, descriptive, casual. Exploratory is formulate marketing questions, focus groups, interviews. That's how you take care of that one. Descriptive, obtain large-scale stats, surveys, SCANA data is where it come from. Causal, study effects of manipulating the 4 Ps. Just experiments, right? So secondary and primary data. Again, secondary data, it already exists. Where are you going to find it? Library, online, the census, something like that. Advantages, it's quick and it's cheap to get to. Primary data, design, collect, and analyze your own particular research study, focus group surveys, that sort of thing. It can be quite precise, but then really expensive. So popular research techniques are cluster analysis, perceptual mapping, focus groups, conjoint analysis, scanner data, and surveys. Cluster analysis is clustering, form groups within groups of customers who are seeking something similar and different across groups. Each group has a different attribute, often used for segmentation. And when we look at it, segmentation of NPO supporters, the desired result is determine if the segment exists that may donate to an NPO that funds higher education. Start with a survey. So NPO, nonprofit organization. And, for health and medical, the size of those, about 30%. And the beneficiaries, American Cancer Society. The arts, 20%. Ballasts, museums, operas, ballets, right? Greenies, 15%. Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund. Children, 10%. Make-A-Wish, St. Jude's, Charity, UNICEF. And your other makes up 25%. That's your religious, local, maybe animal shelter, food bank. So cluster analysis, let's see. When we think about it, after you go through all of your analysis, you'd want to focus on things like who cares about the environment, who cares about medical when we think about the MPO example, right? Who cares about the arts, who thinks higher ed helps society, that sort of thing. So lots of, capacities within the cluster analysis. So perceptual mapping is positioning studies are used to understand customer perceptions of brands in the marketplace. Perceptual maps assist in positioning, right? They give pictures of competing brands and attributes. 2 approaches, attribute-based approach and the multidimensional scaling, or MDS. So perceptual mapping, attribute-based. In attribute-based perceptual mapping, customers complete a survey. So how does our brand rate of equipment? Not as good as others, better than others, 1 to 7. Usually it's a 1 to 10. Variety of classes, 1 to 7. Helpful staff, value, reflects my personality. How important are these qualities to you? Variety of equipment, variety of classes, helpful staff, value, reflects my personality. So on the not very important to the extremely important, what you're going to find is we've asked the same questions. We've just changed it. How does our brand rate? And then how about it? That is important, right? The last thing you want to do is ask why in a lot of these questionnaires. So think that through. Why elicits a defense? Just a free FYI there. Perceptual mapping, attribute-based. Responses on each question are averaged. Result is a pair of means of each attribute. So BFit Gym is perceived as a good value. The pairs of means are used to plot the attributes in a 2-dimensional space. All right, so perceptual mapping questions. Which attributes is most important? How does BFit Gym score on this attribute relative to competitors? And which attribute should BFit Gym consider improving and why? So based off of all the scores on the 1 to 7s, on the perceptual mapping, we should be able to tell exactly what and why BFit is loved for. Perceptual mapping, MDS, multidimensional scaling starts by asking how similar are these 2 brands. Ask for each pair of brands. So you go through the same questionnaire, only you use BFit Gym and then Average Joe's Gym, right? Then each brand is rated on the attributes. So perceptual mapping questions number 2, which brands are viewed as most similar, which brand is most different? So when we look at it, we've got BFit, Gold's, LA Fitness, and YMCA. So when we look at the answers, BFit doesn't really score necessarily, but that's the one that we're looking at. Gold scored a 5, LA Fitness scored a 4.7, and YMCA scored a 5.1. So remember, this is out of 7. So YMCA is the most similar, right? When we look at which brand is the most different, we shift. So yeah, honestly, this is no. All right, perceptual mapping questions number 2. When you look at the graph of all the questionnaires from BFit Gym and Gold's, YMCA and LA Fitness, Gold's Gym and YMCA. So you ask all back and forth between all the brands. Multidimensional scaling starts by asking how similar are the two. It asks for each pair of brands, then each brand is rated on the attributes. So after that, we extrapolate that data and figure out which brand is the most similar and which brand is the most different. So we know basically if we're going to go after marketing, we're looking at a specific group of, we want to be more like these folks because that's who we're more like. Makes it easier for your marketers to a certain degree, right? Results are then plotted. Similar brands are closer together, different brands are further apart. Next, overlay the perceptual map with the attribute ratings, and the MDS can be used to determine how to reposition the brand. So feature fun classes and ads, feature staff and ads, and show fun and amenities. So that's the basics of your perceptual mapping MDS. The focus groups. Focus groups used for concept testing and ad development. They're exploratory technique using 2 to 4 groups of 8 to 10 customers, and not necessarily good for prediction, but best to follow up with a survey. Usually lasts about 1.5 to 2 hours. Focus group moderator starts with introductions and easy questions, and then proceeds to key client questions. Keeps the discussion going, brings out quieter members, and controls overbearing members. Hence the moderator position, right? Moderator usually analyzes results along with the company input. Describe at least 2 research techniques to answer the following objective. How will customers respond to our new packaging? So you could do the focus group after survey. You could do the perceptual mapping to find out how the packaging works, what people prefer when they think about packaging, that sort of thing. So conjoint analysis. Conjoint studies used to understand how consumers make trade-offs helps uncover customers' most important product attributes and good for pricing, new products, branding, etc. Would frequent flyers in a loyalty program want access to an elite club at large airports? Maybe if they have long layovers, but I want to get to wherever I'm going. So stuff like that might not ever work for me, right? Conjoint analysis, again, participants rate each option from least to most preferred, and what feature do customers want? So monthly, 1 day, $30 a month, scheduled 1 day, $30 a month, monthly 2 hour, $30 a month, scheduled 2 hour, $30 a month. So it's all $30 a month versus monthly 1 day at $60 a month. Scheduled 1 day, $60 a month. I'm going to go with the 30. Scheduled 2 hours, $30 a month. Whatever the argument is, that's what we're looking for, right? So flyers judgments are in the last column. Describe how the customer's preferred options differs from the second most preferred. What does this difference mean to marketers? And that would be slide number 30 on the PowerPoint, and we'd need to look at the graph on that one. So conjoint analysis questions 2. Regression is run on data with flyer ratings as a dependent variable. So predicted rating equals 5 plus 1, club plus 2, upgrade minus 4 fee. Another algebraic equation. How would you interpret this? How would you design your program based on these results? So pricing, predicted rating equals 5 plus 1 club plus 2 upgrades minus 4 fee. So it looks like you get bonuses for adding the clubs, adding the upgrade, and then you subtract your fee. So that's the predicted rating. It seems like that final one, you know, you've got plus, plus, minus. That final minus, if you can moderate that, if you can keep that from being too crazy, it looks like you're probably going to have a really good response. So scanner data. Companies use scanners to track purchase information and store it in a database. Tracked information includes what you bought, how much you bought, what brands you bought, and how much you paid for everything. So everybody that has those club cards, grocery stores out on the East Coast when I lived out there in Raleigh, North Carolina, every grocery store had a little keychain card so it could track everything. And they said they'd be able to identify what coupons to give you. I really think they were doing more than that, but that was their shtick. And then you got off your first purchase, you got like 10% off. Well, tax was like 6-7%, so that's really only 3% off, right? But people see that and they're like, ooh, 10% off. Maybe. Loyalty cards then link this information to each customer. GNC Gold Card members. Back in the day, a friend of mine owned a GNC franchise, sold the fire out of the GNC Gold Cards. And basically you paid like $100 or whatever it was, and they tracked all of your spending. So the franchise stores that had all this data rolling in was being evaluated not just by themselves, but by corporate. And within, depending on the success of the Gold Card sales, you as a franchisee might find a corporate store across the street. So what was the company doing? They're figuring out, they're making the franchisee do all the work. Interesting, right? So loyalty cards, are they really that awesome? Scanner data, slide 2 of 4, store and area auditors integrate additional information into the database. So prices of competing brands, sales, featured items, advertised brands, that sort of thing. Companies can add data from customer panel who provide household information and agree to have their media tracked. So these data with the other tracked data determine purchase patterns. So purchase patterns really help a lot, right? So scanner data can be used to forecast demand and determine responses to marketing changes. That's nice from a logistics channel perspective. Experiments with scanner data. Increase price by X, what happens to sales? Manipulate independent variable price. Hold all else constant. Measure impact on dependent variables. Sales. Compare sales results to the control group. High internal validity, right? Certain hair care products, I tend to use a lot of them, right? If they don't have a coupon, I don't buy them because we use a lot of them. So at the end of the day, those companies that are playing with their scanner prices and scanner data, if that scanner data doesn't have a coupon that goes with it, whether it's an HEB in-house coupon or the company-sponsored coupon, not going to buy. So they'll notice my particular buying patterns, if that was possible to track me as an individual. My patterns only go into bulk mode when there's a sale. So naturalistic observation with scanner data. Instead of manipulating the environment, just constantly monitor it, right? Things happen that are beyond your control. Competitors raise prices, they cut prices, they issue coupons, they don't issue coupons. High external validity, more difficult to attribute sales differences to one localized action. Smart companies do experiments in naturalistic observation. So surveys. Surveys often used to measure customer satisfaction, repurchase intentions, etc. And to administer, you write survey questions, pre-test them, administer to a sample of customers, and then analyze your results. Survey considerations, things you really need to think about is surveys can be administered in person, over the phone, on the web, etc. Back in the day in the malls, they'd have some, a group of folks outside of a larger anchor like a JCPenney, Dillard's, Foley's, something along those lines. And they'd have little clipboards, and they would step in front of you and say, excuse me. All right, so scanner data. Slide 104, companies use scanners to track purchase information and store it in a database. Tracked information includes what you bought, how much you bought, what brands you bought, how much you paid for everything. Loyalty cards then link this information to each customer. Skip that. All right, let's start with surveys. Surveys, often used to measure customer satisfaction, repurchase intentions, etc. To administer, you write the survey questions, pre-test them, administer to a sample of customers, and then analyze the results. Survey considerations, they can be administered in person, over the phone, on the web, although the in-person over the phone seem to be out of vogue these days with the internet. Surveys should be short to enhance response rate. Responses should be confidential. Responses should not be used for subsequent sales opportunities. You're just there taking a survey. Respondents can be consumers or B2B. So a lot of them, they have some sort of a incentive to conduct the survey. And most people will say, we're giving you a $5 Visa card or a $10 Visa card. The next question the consumer is going to ask, or the respondent, is how long is the survey? So if somebody said, oh, it's going to be 30 minutes, nope, not happening. If they're like, oh, it's 2 or 3 minutes, most people will agree to something like that. Surveys, factor analysis. Factor analysis is utilized to simplify variables. So factor analysis examines strong and weak correlations to identify underlying factors common to the responses. So high correlations imply that you may be measuring the same concept, right? Let's see. Discussion questions number 5. You've developed an idea for a new shoe. Having a single shoe sole in which you can clip on different shoe tops to create different shoes. The one sole. Describe the appropriate research techniques to answer each of the following questions. Is this concept viable? And which will generate more sales? One pair of soles and one shoe top for $30, or one pair of shoe soles and 3 shoe tops for $50? So let's start with that first one. If we're talking about one shoe that can have 3 different appearances for $50, or one shoe that has one appearance for $30, if you did the math on it, it's $90 versus $50, so it's half price basically if you buy the 3. I think the 3 shoe tops for $50 with one sole would be the ideal one to bring to market. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have the one for $30, right? Because some people might just want the one for $30 and like the idea that at some point in time they can change it out when that top one gets dirty, but for now they're going to pace themselves, right? And then you might offer tops in and of themselves for like $15, $20, right? Is the concept viable? It sounds viable, but how clunky is the shoe? What's it look like? And that's going to really drive it. If it looks like you're wearing galoshes, I don't think it's going to sell, to be honest. Back in the day, they had roller skate clip-ons where you took your shoe, clipped it into the roller skate, and suddenly you had skates. When you compared those skates, which were usually metal in nature as far as the wheels and everything else, they were inferior to anything you'd find in a roller rink. But as far as something that you could give your kids so they could play in the driveway, that worked out really well. So when we think about the viability of this particular concept, maybe, maybe not. It's kind of like the Swatch watch. One watch, different bands, you can change them all out. So ask yourself this question. With all the capacities to change out like smartwatches these days, you can buy the package that has multiple bands, different colors. How often do you take the time to change out the color? If you're that person and that seems to be a viable, currently awesome selling product, and the one sole shoe concept can come across just as slick and integrated, then it might work out. But then again, how many of the extra band colors do you have that you're not using? Because, I don't know, maybe black goes with everything. Silver goes with pretty much everything. Gold maybe looks too gaudy. Who knows, right? So, managerial recap for Chapter 15. Cluster analysis identifies similar customer groups, ideal for segmentation. Surveys and MDS are used to create perceptual maps, ideal for positioning. Focus groups are exploratory, ideal for product concept and ad testing. And conjoint methods indicate trade-offs, ideal for product design. Scanner data, ideal for investigating brand switching, loyalty, price sensitivity, and marketing experiments. That price sensitivity is going to be huge, right? Surveys, ideal for satisfaction, can be simplified through factor analysis. When you think about the surveys, keep them short. If you're in a one-to-one business where you are dealing from a consultancy perspective with your clients, tell them you'll give them a free session of whatever it is that you're consulting on if they take the time to do a more in-depth survey. And what you'll find is, more often than not, they'll really give you some good feedback because that single session cost, for me in the personal training realm, if it's $75 a session, and I ask somebody to fill out maybe 6 pages worth of survey, I've never had anybody turn me down. So it's worthwhile, right? So ideal for satisfaction, gives you great feedback on how you can improve. The next big thing when you're talking about customer service surveys, don't take it personal because it's going to hurt. You might think that you've got the best intent, but your actions might not have exemplified said intent. That's our managerial recap for Chapter 15. See you next time.